Before I let you go, I want to know about like misconceptions of like remote work. Like, what are things that people have these preconceived notions of that like you think are just like not necessarily true?
Good question. The first thing is that remote work is not sitting on your couch. Remote work is still working your ass off in a different way that is better suited in some ways. And so for people like myself, I'm a little more introverted. And so when I have conversations, I like them to be very, very intentional. And when I worked in an office, it was insane to me how every 15 minutes someone would come into your office and say a joke, and then it would throw you off your flow, and you'd end up going home and you would get nothing done because you didn't have your 3 hours of committed time.
Yeah.
So the first sort of myth is that remote work means less work. It actually usually means more work. It's just a different type of work, which for some people, they like to be more intentional with their time, a little more introverted. The second misconception, though, which is probably the biggest one, is that you can't form relationships. This one I just fervently disbelieve in. And I will say that because I had to out of necessity. Like, I couldn't go find Matt Coatney. I couldn't hire Matt Coatney if we were in Silicon Valley. I wouldn't be able to find him if my only pipeline was the company that I worked for or the events that I went to. I literally had to, by necessity, find these people. And because of that, I have freelancers in Croatia, Serbia, UK, Belgium, Amsterdam, the US. To be honest with you, the US freelancers are usually the worst. Like, sorry, US, I'm American, so I can say it. We're way too entitled. And, like, the Europeans are eating our lunch. So the second thing, though, is that relationships can't be built in a remote environment. That is so fervently false. But what is required in a remote relationship is actually committing to the outcomes that you'll say you'll deliver. So in person, I feel like relationships are easier to form sort of loose relationships, but it's harder to form deep ones because let's say we're collaborating together. If I see you every day, I can't get that mad at you when you don't deliver your thing and give me an excuse tomorrow morning. In a remote environment, there's no excuse. Like, you should have communicated it before, and you're more intentional about the deadlines. So those are like the two myths that I say. I think a third myth would be people think there's like magic tools. There's not. I think at the end of the day, all work usually comes down to a spreadsheet or some sort of email, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to turn your infrastructure into this beautiful thing. It might literally just be emails. You might be emailing your client back and forth, and that's fine. Your CRM system might just be a spreadsheet. Your actual project management also might just be a spreadsheet. So that's the third thing, is don't worry too much about the tools. Instead, really focus on what's happening behind the tools.
Yes. Clip it. Send it out on all social media. That was the sound bite that I think everybody needs to hear. I could not agree more. You should write like a Medium post on just like misconceptions of remote work, because that was the best summary I think I've heard today.
Let's write it together, Ryan. And one thing I want to call out too, just because anyone that's had large company experience, this isn't like a remote work conception. It's also one of the misconceptions about the office, which I think was so wrong, and we're now starting to feel the effects of it, is like the Microsofts, the Amazons. Actually, Amazon doesn't really count. The Microsofts, the Facebooks. We don't need free lunch, and we don't need you to spend all this money on our like fringe expenses. Give us flexibility and like give us the money. Like, instead of paying me $10K a month and then having all this free crap, just give me $15K a month or give me $12K a month. So that's, it's not just remote work. Also in the office, there's these massive misconceptions about what we need. And that was just crazy to me, of how much free stuff they would give out. When in reality, it's just give me more money and give me flexibility. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that there's also a generation that values their time. Like, obviously, the most important resource. So flexibility will continue to drive how people think about their next job. So this was an amazing conversation, Matthew. Thanks for dropping all this knowledge on me. This is like not my expertise, but I love hearing about the remote workforce, freelancing, and of course your awesome book, The Human Cloud, which I'll have to give a read ASAP. But for all the people listening, where's the best place to find out more about you, and the best place to buy The Human Cloud? I guess Amazon.
Amazon's great. Amazon, we don't know why, it's like $4 right now, so hurry up and go get it while it lasts. There's only like 15
great.
copies left.
It's a steal.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, and I have to buy my own book. So when I send it to people, like I'm like, yeah, what's your address? Like, yeah, right, give me your address and I'll send it your way. It's only $4 right now. So Amazon
deal.
is a place. You'll find it in local bookstores as well. So I've had friends reach out being like, is this your idiot
cool.
face in my local bookstore? And I'm like, yeah, sorry. So, your local bookstore will have it. If you want to find me, LinkedIn, just feel free to connect, reach out. Don't sell me crap, but if there's a good collaboration opportunity, always open to talk, always open to have a quick meeting. And then just Google, you can find some of the stuff. So, Forbes, you'll find that. Venture, my software company, you'll find that. But LinkedIn is probably the best place to start.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll link everything in the show notes. Matthew, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. One of my favorite conversations today. We'll have to get you back for round 2 when Mustafa is back, feeling healthy. But that's it for Design Huddle today. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and jump over and check out our YouTube channel. We launched it a couple weeks ago, so we're still kind of playing around with different formats. So this episode will be up there as well as live everywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Design Huddle. Peace. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Design Huddle. The opinions expressed are solely our own and do not express the views or opinions of our employer.